Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host, Deffinition, and this is the channel where we explain it so you don't have to. I'm away on my wedding anniversary at the moment, so unfortunately I won't be posting up any breakdowns on new releases, but I thought I'd use the time to break down the ending of one of my favourite horror films, It Follows. Whether it was the amazing synth soundtrack or phenomenal feeling of dread that you have throughout the movie, something about this film always stuck with me. Throughout this video, I'll be breaking down the main plot of the film, its ending, and giving my thoughts on what the mysterious monster represents. This is full spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to know anything about the film, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. For everyone else, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this video. I hope you enjoy it. Now sit back, relax, and let's get into my ending explained breakdown of It Follows. It Follows centres around Jay, an adolescent female that, after having sex with a boy named Hugh, learns that she's been infected with a sexually transmitted demon, or STD, that slowly follows her throughout the film. If the demon manages to catch up to her, it will kill her and then begin making its way onto Hugh before it works its way down the line, killing those until it reaches the source. Jay learns that the curse can be passed on to others through intercourse, but doing so will doom them, and if it manages to kill them, then it will once more put her in the crosshairs. The creature is invisible to all those who are not infected, however it does have a physical body, and with the help of friends, Jay is able to seemingly defeat the creature once and for all. In the end, Paul, a close friend of Jay that has always desired her, decides to make a pact and the two couple up, passing the curse back and forth between one another. We end on an ambiguous shot of the two hand in hand, both clearly in a world of despair, but forced into a relationship in order to survive, whilst the creature may or may not still be stalking them. So the biggest question that I always see surrounding this film is, did they kill the creature, and what does the final shot mean? Well, firstly, I don't believe that they did. At the beach, though it was damaged, the monster still kept coming back, and due to this, the swimming pool plan in my mind won't really make a difference beyond delaying it. The entity has no fear of confrontation, and therefore we can surmise that it is unable to be harmed. Thus, this final defeat is a teen's dream, and though they have found a way to make the creature manageable, it will eventually come back around like all the STDs that people who thumbs down this video have. Sorry about that. The final coupling up is not a good idea, and it's probably going to cause more complications down the line that will eventually lead to further problems. This is like on Love Island when people couple up to stay in the show. They know they're going out at some point, but they just want a couple more weeks in the spotlight. And that's what Jay and Paul are doing. She's basically having to resort to Paul to stay alive for a bit longer, and we all know that the plan will not work forever. This was confirmed by the director, David Robert Mitchell, who, when discussing the film with Vulture, said the following: "It's the stupidest plan ever. It's a kids movie plan. It's something that Scooby-Doo and the gang might think of, and that was sort of the point. What would you do if you were confronted by a monster and found yourself trapped within a nightmare? Ultimately, you have to resort to some way of fighting it that's accessible to you in the physical world, and that's not really going to cut it. We kind of avoid any kind of traditional setup for that sequence, because in more traditional horror films, there might be a clue that would lead them to figure out a way to destroy this monster. I intentionally avoided placing those. Instead, they do their best to accomplish something and we witness its failure. It's probably a very non-conventional way of approaching the third act confrontation, but we thought it was a fun way to deal with it." In regards to the final shot and the figure stalking Jay and Paul, he stated, "We had a couple of variations on it. I think we had some where he was really far back, and then some where no one would ever miss him. But we settled on the one where he's there, but not too close. It allows people to make up their own mind of what it means. To me, it means that this will forever linger over their relationship, and they can either mature to the point that they will be equipped to deal with it, or it will cause them to turn on each other. Though demons aren't often a problem in a relationship that develops from your late teens into your 20s, it can be viewed more as a metaphor for other things that pop up. Teenage relationships are simple, carefree, and often feel like non-stop fun. However, upon graduating school, moving out, or having to step into the real world, they often fall apart due to neither member of them being equipped to deal with the problems that they now face. I know from my personal experience that in my early 20s, though my relationships started off well, as a couple we simply were not compatible as people to work together as one in order to tackle actual issues which eventually caused us to separate. This is the situation that Jay and Paul now find themselves in, and they must either mature and get through the problem or fall apart because of it. But what exactly is the monster? Well, it's difficult to fully comment on what exactly this shape-shifting entity is. However, I believe that it is a manifestation of sexual assault and the stigmatism that surrounds it. Jay experiences assault early on in the film, however she confronts this and after opening up to her friends and finding a caring sexual partner is able to overcome the threat of it. Though we learn little in the film about the previous victims of the entity, from what information that we do get, it's clear that they tackled it in the opposite way to Jay. Hugh moved to a dilapidated building and passed it on without discussing it. Jay, on the other hand, freely discusses it, and this allows her to confront the issue head on without judgment. Greg, who willingly takes on the demon from Jay, doesn't really seem to believe in it, and instead he uses it as an opportunity to have sex with Jay. Juxtaposing this, Paul actually wants to help with her problems, and he seems like a nice guy willing to be there. This leads to Greg being killed, and ultimately Jay is left in the same situation as she was before passing it on. There comes a big turning point in the film when Jay has the opportunity to sleep with a group of men on a boat, however I think that she realises that this is wrong and returns home. This is the opposite to Hugh and likely the ones before him who knowingly passed it on and thus led to more misery. In the finale of the film, the creature appears as Jay's father, and personally I think that this represents a parent's disapproval that may centre around the subject of their child's sexual activity. By killing the monster as it is in this form, Jay is able to fully shed the weight and become a grown woman, no longer overseen by the potential disapproval of her parents. She now realises the importance of someone who is willing and wants to help and thus sleeps with Paul. This leaves us with the thought that we should not be ashamed of things such as this and should openly seek out help from those that are able to properly give it so that we can find strength again to grow. Abuse is something that will follow you your entire life, and some people who are abused go on to abuse others, thus passing it on similar to how the creature is passed from person to person. Though this is never cemented in the film, it is confirmed to me by the many appearances of the creature, which not only takes the shape of a woman who's been clearly assaulted and is urinating on herself, but also a fully naked man and more. This leads into my other theory, which deals with what happened to Jay's father. It's clear that he is absent from the characters' lives, and though Jay's mother is obscured throughout the majority of the film, the very minor parts that we do see of her show her as an alcoholic. This leads me to believe that Jay's mother is struggling with the fact that Jay's father killed himself, and this could be because he was sexually assaulted and could not live with it. Juxtaposing this, Jay confronts it and thus is able to move on from what her father could not. There's also an alternative theory that I've seen which makes a lot of sense and basically flips my prior theory on its head. This is to do with the stylistic choices of the film that could be signifying where the characters actually are. Now what's excellent about It Follows is that there's an undercurrent throughout the entire thing that something's not right in the area. This is purely down to the fact that the time period of the movie is impossible to pin down. There's a futuristic clamshell e-reader, and yet there are vintage television sets, cars, photos and kitchens. This also couples with the fact that the seasons don't make any sense. In the introduction of the film we see a young woman with short shorts fleeing the creature, and based off her look it's summer. However, we see pumpkins on the porches and leaves on the ground. We then see Jay in a swimming pool, but if it is autumn then this would be far too cold to relax in. When Jay visits the cinema, everyone is wearing a heavy winter coat and it's clearly very cold, so why is she swimming at other parts in the film? Well, this could be because the characters all exist in either purgatory or hell, and the demon is simply tracking and tormenting them for its own sick desires. This is why all of the film is in its own timepiece and why everything feels off. This also backs up the fact that the creature appears as the onlooker's subconsciousness. If the entity was able to choose a form freely, then surely it would be more covert. The fact that it appears as people that would easily alert the onlooker suggests to me that it is unable to do so and therefore adapts to their subconscious. This is why it appears as Greg when Jay is looking out of her window guarding over the character, and why when it bangs on the door it appears as Greg's mother, as this is who he would be expecting to see when hearing the noise. Therefore we can take from this that the characters are trapped in their own personal hells, unaware of what's going on exactly and forced to live out eternity in fear. To me, It Follows is a masterpiece, and definitely one of the most underrated horror movies of the last decade. It's a completely unique premise, and due to its aesthetic, it's elevated above many other films in the genre. I could probably spend an hour talking about the ins and outs of this movie, but hopefully this has given you a quick summary of things that you can now take to go back and watch the film with that will give you a new perspective. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie, and if you agree with either theory or have your own, comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it and make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out my latest film breakdowns, which will be linked at the end. I'll probably start posting regularly again in the next 10 days or so, but me and the wife have had to flee to Mexico because there's a strange creature following us, and we thought the best way to get rid of it was to go to another country. It's walking very slowly, so we should be okay. Anyway, keep an eye out for another classic ending explained breakdown, which should be out pretty soon. This is a channel for people who are mad into movies, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I've been Deffinition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.